Hello, everybody. How are you guys? Happy end of June. Can you believe it's the end of June already? My goodness. All right, giving people time to jump on. I'm going to make sure you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me, or let me know in the chat. I just made sure that I checked my batteries, so they should be up and running. All right, so this is week 4 of the Empowered Principal Leadership Series on how to create value and become more valuable as a school leader. So we have talked about having fun, we've talked about constraint, we've talked about connection, and today, for our last episode of this series, we're going to talk about the value of questioning. And we're going to talk about why that's important, why we question, why it's important, why it's valuable, why we tend to avoid questioning, the keys to productive questioning. And then I'm going to share with you a concept called low versus high value questioning, and why you should analyze your answers to those questions. So that's the agenda for today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Angela Kelly Robeck. I am a certified life coach for school leaders. I help school leaders navigate the demands of their job, become effective leaders, and create work-life balance for themselves so that you can be effective and have a life outside of work. It's really important. And one of the ways that we become extra valuable to our school community is by working on what we believe is valuable and our thoughts and emotions and what we contribute to the cause. And part of that comes from understanding your value, how valuable you really are as a school leader, what it means for you to give value and to receive from that value, and how to create more of it. So today we're talking about questioning. Are you ready to go? All right, let's do this. Looking forward to this. Okay, so I shared with you the agenda. It's right back here for you guys. And we're going to dive right in. So when you think about questions, right? And you wonder why humans question. Why do we even have questions in our vocabulary, right? We have sentences, we have thoughts, and we have questions. We have thoughts that are questions, thoughts that are sentences, right? Thoughts that are answers to those questions. So our brain is wired and designed to ask questions. If you've ever been around a toddler, you know this to be true, right? You know that toddlers, even little ones all the way up, they ask a lot of questions. It's innate, it's in our nature. I was a kindergarten teacher. I was inundated with questions from 5-year-olds. It was wonderful. Their curiosity, they want to learn, they want to know, they want to explore, they want to understand, they want to touch, they want to relate, to connect. Questions help children learn about the world around them, connect with things and other people, and have experiences. Questions are based out of curiosity. That's why the human brain is designed to question, to explain. When we question, there's different kinds of questions, right? We might ask a question, but when we question something, what we're doing is we're investigating it, we're exploring it, we're expanding our knowledge and our understanding and our interaction with other things, with other people, with other places, other experiences. And the questions in our mind are there so that we can learn and grow and evolve our thoughts and our belief systems and our understanding of the world, which then allows us to contribute in a bigger way. So questions are extremely valuable as a school leader because the very purpose of our job is to learn and to grow and to evolve ourselves. And it helps us innovate and update our practice when we question not just things externally, but what's going on internally. That's really important for you to understand that part of questioning really revolves around who we are as leaders, why we do what we do, why we make the decisions we make, why we avoid certain tasks, why we enjoy other tasks, right? Questioning it all is one of the most powerful and empowering practices that you can integrate into your leadership practices. So let's look at the threes. I just highlighted three why it's beneficial for us as school leaders to question why we question. So why should we invest in questioning? Why is it a valuable use of our time, right? Time is one of our top assets. So what is valuable about questions? So these are three that I came up with, and I'm sure there's many more, but these I feel are the most inviting and sell our brains on why we should spend time slowing down and asking ourselves questions. So the first one is engagement, right? Questions spark engagement. When you think about a classroom, if there is a teacher lecturing and talking at the children all day, all hour of, all hours of the day, and all they do is tell them sentences and they don't ask questions, what is the level of engagement in that classroom? It's very low, right? The brain wakes up and pays attention to questions. When somebody's asked a question, it perks them up. It puts us on alert. It says to the brain, hey, wake up, pay attention over here, right? It sparks engagement because it invites that other person into the conversation. It's not just a one-way street. Questions are a two-way street. Now, I'm here to add that you can invite yourself into a conversation with you. Questions aren't just for other people, they're for ourselves. We want to ask ourselves internally questions and have answers to those questions. So it sparks an engagement, a relationship, a connection with ourselves when we question our own thoughts, our own belief systems, the way that we do things, our own actions, our own feelings. When we question all of that, when we question the current results we're getting and what we want to create, all of that brings us to become more engaged with who we are as a person, as a human. We connect with ourselves. It also engages our mind, right? So questions are designed, it's kind of like a problem or a puzzle to solve, right? It's like a game or a puzzle to solve. So when we ask ourselves a question, it really engages the mind because the brain loves to problem solve. That is why a lot of us spin out on thinking about work all day long. That's why you can't sleep at night. That's why you can't turn it off on the weekends or in the evenings. It's because the brain knows it has a problem to solve, and its job is to solve problems for you because its job is to keep you safe and protected, keep you alive, keep all the basics, right? But it wants to help you. Your brain is there for you. It's like your personal computer. It wants to be there for you, in service to you. And so it's actively always engaging, trying to problem solve. So a question is simply just a puzzle to be solved. And when you have so many of those puzzles to solve, that's when you can't turn it off. But questions do spark that engagement. Okay. Finally, questions invest us in the process of problem solving. So when we ask questions, the more we ask, the more invested we become in figuring it out and answering those questions. We get more and more intrigued, and a question another question comes along, right? So we have a question, we kind of set this question, we've got this problem, how do we solve it? Brain starts going to work, and the more engaged we get and the more intrigued we are, the more invested we are in solving that problem. Okay. And we can become more committed to creating that result and solving the problem. All right. Number 2, questions ignite innovation. When you think about when we pose questions, questions are an invitation for our brains to think outside the box. So when we ask a question, the default, the non-engagement response is just the blanket statement. How are you today? Fine. That's not an engaging question. What happened to you today? How are you feeling today? What's new with you today? What are you excited about today? What are you most looking forward to today? Those are questions that say, hey, wait a minute. This person's talking to me. They want to hear what I have to say. So when you're out there on your campus asking yourself, how are you doing today? Fine. You don't want to ask a question that ignites a flat rhetorical answer. You want to invite people to answer in a way that's innovative and thinking outside the box. This is where brainstorms come into play. When we question and we leave a question kind of open-ended so that your brain has time to process outside the box, other people's brains have time to process outside the box, you're inviting innovation into your workspace and into your environment, your work environment, who you are as a leader, who your teachers are as teachers, who your students are as students. We want to pose questions that are not closed-ended. You've learned this before in like 101, classroom management teaching strategies, right? But I want you to consider when you think about yourself as a leader, are you inviting you to the table? Are you asking yourself, what questions do I have? What solutions do I have? What ideas do I have? What else could be going on here? What else might be true? What else could be a solution? What else might become a problem? What are the obstacles? What are the objections people are going to have? Thinking about all of those questions. And the more engaging the question is, the more creative the brain becomes and the more innovative you become. So questioning begets further questions. And one question will always lead to another question. So the goal of your job as a school leader is not to simply ask a question, paste a solution to it, check the box and move on. It's to want to continually ask in order to engage and innovate and inspire people into actions. And then ultimately to evolve, right? The ultimate goal of questioning is that it evolves us into the leaders we want to be, the humans we want to be. It helps evolve us and the world we live in, the contributions that we give, and the receptiveness of what we're able to receive. Because the more we evolve our thinking, the more we evolve our innovation, the more valuable we become as a school leader, and the greater contribution you can give to the world. When you think about school leadership, what we're really doing here is we are becoming thought leaders. Questions are what makes us become a thought leader. Questions are how we become thought leaders. When you think of anybody in the world who's added massive value to our world, the founders of Apple, the founders of Microsoft, the founders of Facebook, like whoever's made a massive impact on the world, they've been asking themselves questions. They're not just accepting the status quo of what is, they're questioning. They're poking around, they're reconsidering, they're investigating, they're exploring, they're doubting, they're challenging, they're wondering, they're curious. So questions are what help you become not just a school leader, but a thought leader. So we want to question things that are new. We want to question things we don't understand. We want to question things that don't seem to work. We want to question the status quo. We want to question it all. We want to question ourselves and what we believe, what we think is possible. We want to question all of it. Okay? So if questioning is the solution to empowered leadership and to becoming a thought leader, where you're expanding the portal of possibility of who you are, who your teachers are, who your students are, who they are becoming, why don't we do it? If it's that simple to ask the questions. Let me show you why. Okay, let's talk about why we don't question. Now, the first thing I'm going to say, I call it OPO, other people's opinions. And it's the voice in your brain that says, what will people think about me if I ask that question? What will people say? Will they think I'm dumb? Will they think I'm stupid? Will they think I'm, not qualified if I ask a question? Or will they think I'm being rude or dismissive or judgmental or defensive or like questioning, kind of like challenging people, being, what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of argumentative. Right? So a big reason why school leaders, especially new ones. So if you're a new school leader out there or you're an aspiring school leader, the primary reason that we avoid asking is we don't want other people to think poorly of us in some way, shape, or form. We avoid the discomfort of even the possibility of somebody thinking we don't know what we're doing, or we're over asking, we're being too pushy. Whatever you're worried about being judged about, that is why you hold back. So the question might pop up in your head, but you hold yourself back because you're afraid to ask it because of what other people will think. The problem with that is it gets you nowhere. It stagnates you when you don't ask questions, or you don't understand, or you do understand and it's not creating a result, yet nobody's talking about why it's not creating the result and why we're doing this in the first place, and why are we not looking at possibly changing it. I used to think about grade levels, right? Why are we putting kids in grade levels when so many kids need differentiation? And all of the ways we've tried to differentiate through RTI, which I was the coordinator for my district for RTI, we were spending so much time and effort trying to figure it out versus looking at why we have the problem in the first place. We don't have ebb and flow and allow kids to fluctuate based on what they need. Regardless of their age or their size or their developmental level, we want, the truth is that we want kids to get what they need in terms of instructional value, but yet we've got them locked in this box of, well, you're a first grader, so you can't learn second grade material, even though you're reading at a second grade level. Or even though you're a third grader and you might be new to English, so you might be having to learn English along with somebody who is developmentally learning English, but we don't want to mesh those two types of learners. So teachers get stuck having to try and do it all. And we know that's not working, but nobody questions it, because they think it's going to be too hard or too difficult, or there's too many challenges to face. So we don't sit in the discomfort of asking the question, the elephant in the room question, right? Now, another reason, and I'm going to talk about this more in depth, is that it's hard to ask questions. It's really hard. And here's why. First of all, I want to say there are high value questions and low value questions, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit more. But when you ask high level questions, it's hard. Number one, it's hard to ask the question because of the discomfort that we feel. But number two, even more so, it's hard to answer the question. There isn't an easy solution. The first answer that pops up isn't always the best answer or the right answer or even a plausible answer, right? So when the brain has to really think, when a great question is asked, the brain has to get to work. The brain doesn't like this. The brain's default mechanism is to make things as simple, easy, and doable as possible. Your brain kind of wants to be lazy a little bit, right? It wants to be effective. It wants to get that problem solved, which is why it spins out, but not at the cost of being super efficient. It would rather be super efficient, and I call it lazy just for fun. Like the brain wants to be kind of lazy. It's like a teenager. Like when they're really invested in something, a teenager will go to the lengths of the earth to get what they want. But if it's going to cost them a whole lot of energy or time, like there's certain things that they kind of want, but it's like, meh. The brain's kind of like that. It's kind of like, meh, I don't want to have to really think. Let me ask somebody else to think about it. Let me ask somebody else for the solution to my problem, because I don't want to do the work. Doing the work is hard. Asking a question that's of high value requires your brain to think. It's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging. It requires lots of energy and focus and attention. Sometimes we have to give ourselves a break and come back to it. And the brain just doesn't like the process of having to answer hard questions. So what do? What do we do when our brain doesn't want to do the work, doesn't want to ask, doesn't want to feel the feelings, right? We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We don't want to, think about what other people might think of us or say about us. And we get stuck. We have a question inside of us and we feel that kind of that dissonance within ourselves, what we know we want to ask, but we're afraid to ask. So what do we do? So here are some keys to questioning. Number one, the type of question that you ask is relevant. There are low value questions and high value questions that get you different results. A low value question is a question that kind of spins you out. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. A high value question yields a really high value answer and a high value result, right? So the number one key is to consider the type of question you're asking of yourself and others. Are you asking high level questions, low level questions? Are you getting high value out of that answer? Or is it resulting in the same thing over and over? A low value question, okay? Number two, the second key to questioning is to consider the intent behind the question. There is an energy and an emotion behind the question. Now, we've all been asked aggressive questions that are coming from this energy and this emotion of wanting to kind of sock it to you as a school leader, right? So there are questions out there where the intention is curiosity, seeking to understand, a genuine concern or care about somebody, a serious like posing of a hard question where we're not expecting the answer. Like we're coming in kind of from a neutral standpoint where we know this is hard. We know there's not an easy solution, but we want to dive in. There's that kind of energy. And then there's a reactive energy that is coming from a space of defensiveness or anger or frustration or retaliation, or maybe it comes from grief and sadness. Why did this happen? Why did you break up with me? Why did this accident have to happen? Like those kinds of questions. So you want to think about the intent behind the question. What is it you're actually asking and why are you asking it? Those are really important things to know about yourself when you're posing the question. In all honesty, right? Sometimes when we're frustrated with our staff, we might ask them a question to kind of catch them. And we want to question that question before we ask the question. Okay, so step three the third key into questioning is, this is going to sound the most obvious to you, but I promise you, it's actually the thing we do the least. So I was talking a little bit ago about how hard it is to ask questions, but interestingly, asking a question is never that hard. Our brain throws questions at us all day long, rhetorical questions, right? What do you think about this? What do you think about that? The third key, the most important key to questioning, is to answer your own questions. So when you say, how do I do that? Or what should I do about this? And you just throw that question out to somebody, and you either get an answer or you don't, but you don't slow down and stop and actually answer your own question. Like, so many times we ask ourselves a question, but we don't even answer it. We don't even think to answer it. Rhetorical questions provide zero value because there has been no work done to consider what the solution might be or the answer might be. So when you're asking yourself a question, but you're not answering it, there's no purpose or value to the question. It's of zero value. So this is where I bring up the idea of low value questions and low value answers. So low value questions, did I write this down? I don't think oh, here it is. I've already got it for you. Low value questions are questions that kind of spin us out. They don't really have an answer. They're just kind of questions. They're kind of flatline, or the questions make us feel terrible. I think of questions like, why did I do such a dumb thing? Why couldn't I have known better? Why didn't I see that coming? Why didn't I put that on my calendar? How did I miss that meeting? Right? Those kinds of questions, right? Questions that make us feel terrible as a leader. Questions that are self-criticizing, self-judgmental, self-deprecating. They feel terrible. So low value questions, they feel terrible. They don't feel engaging. They're not inspiring questions. They're not coming from a place of curiosity. They're coming from like a self, like deprecating, kind of beating yourself up, and you're not really answering the question, right? And sometimes we do this just out of habit, but we do this as a form of buffering. What we're really doing is we're avoiding the hard work of the high value questions. We don't want to ask the high value questions like, no, really, what's going on here? Why do I keep missing meetings? Or what is going on for me with the way I'm thinking or the way I'm showing up that's producing this reaction from my teachers? Like, what am I missing? Where am I looking, right? That is a high value question, like slowing yourself down and really looking into the problem behind the problem. So low value questions are very surface based. They feel heavy, they feel yucky, they're discouraging, and they don't focus on the positive. They kind of remove us away from the positive. And they don't have an answer that feels resolved to you. It feels more like kind of this open-ended floaty question, and it keeps spinning and happening over and over again, okay? Like, what's wrong with them? Or what's wrong with me? Or how do I do this? Or why don't I do that? But then we don't answer it. That's where we get into low value questioning. On the other hand, my invitation for you as a leader is to consider looking at the quality of your questions and asking yourself high value questions and creating high value answers for yourself. So high value questions are questions that create higher impact, faster results, expedited results. They happen bigger, better, more quickly, because they push you to think outside the box. Your brain has to do the work. You have to earn that solution. You have to earn that outside the box thinking. You have to earn that creative way of becoming a leader that gets more done in less time, that says no to the things that aren't the priority, that schedules in fun, that gets plenty of rest, that has time for family and friends. So people who ask themselves high value questions, they focus on what's possible instead of what's probable, right? And what I mean by that is you're not thinking about, well, this probably is going to happen if I do that, or if I do this, that'll probably happen, versus like, but what could possibly happen? It's kind of that shift between the worst case scenario to the best case scenario. Our brain defaults to like, oh, here are all the things that could go wrong. But the high value question is, what are all the things that could go right? If I do this, what could go right? What could I create for myself in my life and my school? What if versus what if? You see it? Okay. So high value questions, they feel very energizing and exciting and engaging and interesting. You want to be a part of that process, even when it's hard. They're fun, even though it's hard. They feel good to try. It's like a puzzle. You're putting the puzzle pieces together. It sometimes takes days or weeks. I know when COVID hit, we were putting together this massive puzzle. It took us months to get it done. We played a little bit here or there. We spent really hard time looking for pieces, and sometimes something would come together and sometimes it wouldn't, but it felt fun to try. And ultimately, we created a result. We gave ourselves time. We kept asking. We kept trying again until we figured it out. Okay. So, what I want to offer to you is that you have permission to question. As a school leader, give yourself permission. Give yourself time to ask yourself questions and then the time to answer them. Give yourself permission to pose questions to other people from a clean space, from an energetically clean space, a neutral, curious space, a genuine interest to understand, versus that kind of like trying to get at people, right? That I'm asking you to poke at you or to make you feel bad or to kind of catch you, right? So being in a clean space when we're asking these questions and giving ourselves permission and allowing ourselves to feel nervous or feel worried or a little bit afraid and ask the question anyway. Give yourself permission, because asking questions is how you create solutions. So whatever you're spinning out on at work, and if you're home for break right now and your brain is still thinking about all the things you have to do for next year and all the possibilities and all the hiring and onboarding new people, asking yourself how, asking yourself what, why, when, how, asking yourself questions and giving yourself time to answer them is how you generate solutions. That's it. When you don't ask yourself questions, you're on the status quo. You're going on autopilot and remote thinking, remote doing, remote feeling, and you're getting the same result over and over. So what is the cost of not questioning? So you can go through your leadership life and just go with the flow, do what other people say, right? A lot of people say, I just have to kind of I have to, buy in, I have to do what I'm told to do. And the cost of that is significant because we already have the result that we're in this moment, right? You have created the result you have in this moment. You already have gotten to this spot. If you don't question where you're at ever again, you don't move forward. So what happens is, number one, there's a lack of awareness. When you don't question, you kind of go through life with blinders on. You're just going through the motions of being a leader, going through the motions of going to work, going through the motions of living your life without understanding why or being curious. It feels like a lack of control or agency over your life. It feels like life is happening to you, work is happening to you. You're not questioning why it's happening. You're just letting it happen. That's living very passively and with a lack of awareness. Number two, it avoids the truth. The cost of not questioning is that you don't get to live in integrity, in your truth. So there's a misalignment in your life when you don't question. This is when you feel it inside. There's a knowingness about what feels true for you, but you're avoiding it. You're not acknowledging it. You're not allowing it. You're not letting it come to the surface. You're not expressing it. So what happens is you feel this internal conflict with yourself. And that is not a fun way to lead, my friends. You don't want to lead out of alignment. That's the very first step that I teach in the Empowered Principal process, is aligning to your leadership values. We have to get honest with ourselves about who we are and what we believe and what we value and what results we want to create for ourselves professionally and personally, and get everything in alignment so that we can live the life we're meant to live. We can lead the school the way we're meant to lead the school, and you can tap into the highest, most empowering version of yourself. Three, the third cost of not questioning, and there are many ripple effects to not questioning, but the third result that it creates is very lackluster results in your life experience, in your leadership experience, in your life experience. Because when people say, I'm just doing, this is the way it's always been done, this is the way I was taught, this is the way I know, It feels very numb. It's very boring. It's not innovative. It's not creative. It's not evolutionary. You're just creating the same result. Just the light flashed. It's the same result over and over and over, creating no new experiences, no new solutions, kind of flatlining. So the value of questioning is innovation, connection, evolution, right? Engagement, expansion. What I want to offer you as a school leader is that you can question anything you want. There's nothing off limits. You don't have to do anything or take action on it. Just the act of questioning is the first step. But be sure, if you're going to ask a question, answer it. So when you ask yourself rhetorical questions, slow yourself down and actually answer them. What do you think about behavior management? What is your policy on restoration and repair in terms of like reformative behavior plans? Or do you believe in a more punitive approach, and why? What feels aligned to you? What feels right to you? What's in the best interest of kids, right? You can think about your school's priority for the year. I did this exercise with one of my clients and I asked him, what's the top priority for next year? He said, math. I said, I want you to answer from your body, not your brain. And he said, mental health. Your body, your heart, it knows the answers. Ask yourselves the question and then let the answers come to the surface. What is your school priority? What types of PD do you know your teachers need and want? What about schedules? What's working, what's not? What do you want to do differently? What about your calendar? How do you spend your time? How do you allocate resources? Are they in the best interest of kids and teachers and you and the community? Is there a better way? Let's question it. What about grade levels? What about bell schedules? What about current practices? You're welcome to question any and all of it. You only have to do it with yourself on paper. It doesn't have to be blowing things up at school until you see the creative solution potentials around you. The goal of questioning isn't to go out there and blow everything up. The questioning process is just the innovative and evolutionary process of questioning and seeing what your options are, seeing potential solutions, and being open to all of it. Part of high value questioning is focusing on what is working. So a lot of times our brain wants to look at what isn't working, the negative feedback we got, the people who don't like us, the teachers who don't follow our lead. I invite you to look at the other side. What is working? What do you already know? What are your strengths? What are your strengths as a school, as a team, as an individual? Where do you guys shine? What is possible for these kids, for these students, for these teachers, for this community? How good can it get? What's the limit of possibility that you believe is capable for your school? And then what's possible after that? If you could hit max achievement, then what? Max academic achievement, then what? What would happen? What would happen? What would happen? Keep going, keep questioning, always, always. And then finally, you want to analyze your answers. You want to analyze how you've learned. And I emphasize how because I teach a process to my clients called HOW, honest, open, and willing, HOW. You want to be honest in asking yourself the questions that are coming up and answering them with integrity and honesty. Being true to yourself, being honest with yourself. That's really hard to do. And when you can do that, it's much easier to be honest with other people. You want to be open to the truth. So there is the true, honest answer sitting out there. Are we open to receiving it? Are we open to hearing it? Are we open to considering it? And then finally, willing. I did number 3 and W, being willing to adjust and try again. Being open to receiving that, and then being willing to try, to adjust, to change your mindset, to change your belief systems, to change your approach. Just being open to it, being willing to try it. You can always go back to the old way if the new way doesn't work, because you know the old way works. But if you don't try a new way, you won't ever know. Okay. So that is the end of the training. I'm going to jump on and see if anybody has any questions. And then if not, you guys are out of here. This is the end of the How to Create Value as a School Leader leadership series from the Empowered Principal Leadership Series program. I'm Angela Kelly Robeck. I offer coaching services to school leaders. School leaders work with me to help navigate the mental and emotional demands of this job, to get mentorship, to receive support, to have somebody in their corner, to have confidential conversations, to process, to question, to analyze, and really to create value as a school leader. My goal is to empower every school leader to create the leadership and lifestyle legacy of their dreams, so that they have the career of their dream and the lifestyle of their dream. So you're not overworking or underworking, you're just right, you're finding balance, you're getting self-care, and you are killing it at your job. You're doing the best you can do, you're creating results, you're being effective, you're connecting, you're having fun, you get the whole package. That is what we aim for in the Empowered Principal program. If you are interested in learning more about what coaching is or how we might work together, you can reach out to me at angelakellycoaching@gmail.com. You can schedule a consult call with me at my website, angelakellycoaching.com, to learn more. I hope this series has been helpful. May you be well. Happy summer if you're watching this in real time. If not, and you're watching the replay, you can reach out to me at any time. You don't have to wait for a school year to pass. We can start coaching at any time of the school year. It's never too late to become an empowered principal. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk with you guys all really soon. Take care. Bye.